If you're like me and you've already collected all of the released fighters, I think it's time for you to check out some custom fighters.
Today we have Frodo from Lord of the Rings. And here we have him, old Frodo Baggins himself, one of the hobbits from Lord of the Rings, the main titular character here, I believe, holding a sting in his hand there. But this is an absolutely fantastic deck. Super excited to share this one with you. But I do want to preface, I don't think this is a super competitive deck. You'll see as the deck goes on, there's an alternate win condition other than just defeating your opponent. And some people can definitely see that as unfun, or not enjoy the process of constantly playing keep away with this character to stop him from his alternate win condition. But I think if both people are okay with it, this is kind of a fun twist to the genre, and definitely a game of who can win against Frodo, constantly swapping around, each person taking a turn with Frodo. But I really enjoy this deck, so I'm excited to show it off today. So we can start off with our miniature here with Frodo Baggins. Once again, got this from the Meeple Smith. But one thing you will notice a little bit different today is I actually did do a dark wash on Frodo here, so he matches up with an official fighter better. So here's another Meeple Smith one. You can see that slightly lighter gray with no shadow detail on him. So I did darken him up slightly and then add those shadows like you would see in the regular Unmatched fighters. And we can bring an official Unmatched fighter to kind of see how he matches up just a little bit nicer than ones I've shown up before. So going forward, all of my Meeple Smith fighters will be washed, hopefully, if I always remember to do so. The next here we have our Sidekick Sam here. And I believe this artwork that I chose was more inspired by the book instead of the movies. That's why it doesn't look like that actor. And then lastly here we also have the health dials here. I really like how these ones turned out. Love the Elven text there. I don't know exactly what language it is, but I believe this is what's inscrawled on the outside of the ring. Looks gorgeous. And we have the same thing with Sam here, once again pointing out that we are using smaller health dials for the smaller health fighters. Something that I've been trying to do to be a little bit more accurate to the actual game. But yeah, that is the health dials for both of our fighters there. And then before we continue on to the hero card, I do want to quickly point out we have an extra rules card here. And this one says, at the start of the game, after all pieces are on the board, your opponent must pick any unoccupied space and place his Mountain Doom token there. Here is that Mountain Doom token. Sorry for a little bit of the broken English. I can definitely get that fixed before I upload the file. But here is Mountain Doom, so the opponent will place that somewhere on the board, and as long as Frodo can get onto that space, he can win here. And it'll say, if Frodo occupies that same space as Mountain Doom, and you play the One Ring card, you win the game, regardless of the damage you would take by using the One Ring. So a little bit extra details that we haven't gotten quite to yet. But as you'll say there, this guy will be placed by the opponent, and the opponent is going to be playing Keep Away with Frodo so that he cannot land on that space and play the One Ring card to win the game there. So kind of fun. He is dropping the ring in, and then he wins. But we can see the deck will have a lot of stuff that'll kind of stop Frodo from getting into it, or even kind of take a little bit of advantage and get into that space. But we can get into there as we go. Starting here with our Frodo hero card. This is a melee fighter with 12 health, and Sam, another melee fighter with 9 health, the sidekick. And we have a move of 1, so he is going to be pretty slow. Obviously, can only move 2 spaces an entire turn if he uses 2 maneuvers. And what you'll see here is it says Frodo's movement is not affected by boosting, so you cannot boost this one. So the maximum he can move per turn is going to be 2 spaces unless his card says something different. So obviously, still kind of a frustrating game of takeaway when you're fighting him, but it's going to be pretty difficult for him to get to that space. And the next here also says the One Ring card starts in your hand and cannot be discarded. But also that kind of means that it can't enter your discard pile, so if you play it, it goes right back into your hand. And we can quickly take a look at that card here. So here is the One Ring. And this is a scheme for Frodo, the One Ring. Lose health corresponding to the amount of times you've played this card. Frodo cannot be attacked with attack cards until your next turn. So kind of him putting on that ring, turning invisible, and kind of dodging some big attacks. And it does say specifically attack cards, so versatile cards can still be used to attack Frodo on your opponent's turn. But the ring will definitely save you. And once again, every time you play it, it will go right back into your hand because it cannot be discarded, and obviously it cannot be used to boost either. But very cool and kind of scary because obviously it does save you, but every time you use it, you take more damage. The first time is free, second time 1 damage, then 2, then 3, then 4. And one thing I did add here is I do have a ring counter that goes all the way up until Frodo's max health here at 12, so you can always keep track of how much damage Frodo will be taking from the One Ring. So we can also place that right there. But yeah, we'll go into the deck here in just a second, but one thing I do want to point about the One Ring is it doesn't sound too powerful. Obviously, you need it to win with Mountain Doom. It does take up 1 spot in your hand, so you basically have a max hand size of 6 instead of 7. But there's a few cards in here that do interact with the One Ring, saying like if you've played it this turn or if you played it last turn or something like that, and you'll get bonus effects. So sometimes it's a good idea, or if you think your opponent's winding up with a big attack card and he has you surrounded, you can play this card on your turn to disappear and hopefully cancel out whatever attack cards he would be using on you. But yeah, we can get right into the deck here, and I love this artwork here, these kind of brown colors that we got going on. And this is Frodo and Sam holding on to each other, Frodo and Sam's name down there. But we can get right into it here, starting with Aragorn's Aid. And one thing you'll see on here, there's a bunch of aid cards, so you'll be seeing all of the Fellowship in this deck split up through a bunch of different cards. So I think it's very, very fun. If you're a big fan of Lord of the Rings, this kind of encapsulates most of the movies with most of the heroes showing up throughout this entire deck. But yeah, starting off here is Frodo. Just dropped my cards there. Starting off here with Frodo, this is an attack of 4 with 2 boost 1 copy. This is Aragorn's Aid. After combat, if you won the combat, place Frodo on any adjacent space of the opponent. So I wanted to start off with this one because this is a way to trick your opponent into winning. So if your opponent's standing 1 space ahead of you from Mountain Doom, and you do win the combat with this, you get to place them adjacent, aka on top of Mount Doom. So it's always good for your opponent to be sitting on top of Mount Doom so that you can't be doing that. But you'll see there are some cards that allow you to swap spaces too, so it's definitely a gamble. But next here we also have Legolas's Aid. This is a 4 attack for Frodo with 3 boost 1 copy. And this is after combat, if you won the combat, deal 3 damage split among any amount of fighters in your zone. Kind of Legolas shooting 3 arrows throughout the zone. So I once again love that card. And then next here, another person from the movies. We have attack for Frodo here for 5 with 3 boost 1 copy. And this is Gandalf the Grey's Aid. After combat, if you won the combat, look at your opponent's hand and choose a card for them to discard. And then going right on top of that, we have Gandalf the White's Aid, an attack of 3 for Frodo with 2 boost 1 copy. And this is immediately return 1 aid card from the discard pile into your hand. So I kind of wish I would have put a little icon or something, but basically all of these cards, they say so-and-so's aid on there. So obviously not themselves, but he can bring from Gandalf the White into Gandalf the Grey. Kind of wish they were swapped, honestly, because I feel like it's more thematic that Gandalf the Grey played this card and then brought Gandalf the White back from the dead there. But anyways, going on here, this is one of the only aids that has 2 copies. This is a 2 attack for Frodo, 4 boost 2 copies, and this is Gollum's Aid. During combat, reveal your hand. If you have no aid cards, attack value increases to 5. After combat, if you won the combat, swap places with your opponent. So very, very cool. This is kind of Gollum creeping in there. If you have no other fighters and Gollum's able to kind of deceit Frodo here, he gets to get a big huge attack and attack him while he's alone there. But also this is where your swap comes in. You do have 2 swaps, so if someone's sitting directly on Mountain Doom, you can use this card to swap places with them, and then hopefully either get 1 more action on your next turn, you can play the ring and win the game. Okay, and then next here we have our Versatiles for any, a Versatile of 2 with 1 boost 2 copies, and this is Fellowship of the Ring. After combat, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. If there are any aid cards, you may place 1 in your hand, reveal the card you pick to your opponent, and then shuffle your deck. So very, very cool. Obviously, a 2 versatile is always nice to have, but you get to search the top 5 cards of your deck for an aid to add to your hand, potentially Gollum if you need it. But obviously, there's a bunch of aid cards in here, so sometimes Gollum doesn't always go off here. Next, we have another versatile for Frodo specifically with 2 boost 1 copy, and this is Boromir's Aid. During combat, if the last card you played was the 1 ring, counter all effects on your opponent's card. So once again, pointing out that sometimes it's nice to play the ring. Obviously, you can play the ring first, attack with this card, and then get that extra bonus effect. Or if the last card you played on your turn and now it's your opponent's turn, you do also get this effect. But another aid card that you could add back to your hand with the Gandalf card there. And then next here we have a 2 versatile for any with 1 boost 3 copies, and this is Feint. Immediately cancel all effects on your opponent's card. So obviously we had a stronger Feint there, but we only had 1 copy, and then we have 3 copies of the regular Feint. And another card here for Frodo, a 2 versatile 2 boost 1 copy, and this is Pippin and Merry's Aid. After combat, your opponents must put their hand into their deck and then shuffle the deck. They must then draw the same amount of cards they previously had. So obviously if you think your opponent's sitting on a bunch of nice cards, you can just make them redo that hand. Obviously not super helpful, but definitely a great way to disrupt your opponent there. Next is a 2 versatile for any with 1 boost 2 copies, and this is Deep Courage. Immediately if your opponent's card has a value of 5 or more, it's reduced to 0. Definitely a very cool card. Like obviously with Frodo being a character that's trying to evade you and get around you to get to Mountain Doom, it's nice that if your opponent tries to attack you with too high of a value, and it is value of 5, not printed value of 5, survive. So if they try to hit too big of an attack, you can put your courage in there and just reduce it down to 0. And then moving on here, we have our defense cards, a 1 defense for Frodo, 4 boost 2 copies, and this is I'm coming with you. After combat, you may either place Sam adjacent to Frodo, or if Frodo were to take damage from the combat and Sam is adjacent, Sam can take that damage instead. So obviously a little wordy here, but basically you can bring Sam closer to you, or if Sam's already by your side, you can have Sam take the damage and keep Frodo alive. So you'll see that with some of the cards coming up here with Sam, that Sam, just like in the movie, is around here to help Frodo to get him to the end by any means necessary. Next here we have Grimly's Aid, a 2 defense for Frodo with 2 boost 1 copy. And this is during combat. If this card defends against a versatile card, ignore the value on that card. So we only have 1 copy of this, but I love cards like this where you're predicting if you're supposed to be playing a specific card. And then next here is a defense of 0 for any with 1 boost 3 copies, and this is Flee. Immediately cancel the attack value on the opposing player's card. After combat, your opponent may move any number of your fighters up to 2 spaces. So potentially 4 spaces moved if you move both your fighters there. But a card that I really like, I think is such a great card for this deck, being that, I said, with that different objective that you have there, that you are canceling the effect. I mean, you'll still take effect damage, but your opponent gets to move you away or move you into a better position for themselves to keep you away from Mount Doom and to set you up for a better attack there. But next here we have a scheme for Frodo with 2 boost 2 copies, and this is Invisible Escape. To play this card, you must have played the One Ring this turn. Move Frodo up to 2 spaces, moving through all opposing fighters on the board. So these 2 cards here are kind of like your win condition. You'll have to play the One Ring first, and then you can move yourself to Mount Doom, but obviously that's both of your actions. So you'll have to wait until your next turn, hopefully survive, to play the One Ring one more time. Obviously, if you don't, you will not be taking quite a bit of lethal damage from the ring there. Once again, a very cool card. And the next here, a scheme for Frodo with 2 boost 2 copies, and this is Resting Spot. If at the end of your turn, Frodo and Sam are on the same spaces they started at this turn, heal them both by 2. So basically, I mean, it's worded definitely weird. It should just say end your turn at the end of there, but basically saying that either this has to be your last card, or if it's your first action, you just have to not move the next turn, but you get 2 health there. You get to heal both by 2. But it's nice just basically saying they're taking a break, they're not moving around, they're getting some healing. Then next here we have our first Sam specific card with a scheme, 3 boost 2 copies, and this is But I Can Carry You. Move Sam up to 2 spaces. If Sam starts adjacent to Frodo, they both move up to 2 spaces. I mean, very thematic. Either Sam's moving himself, or if he's next to Frodo, he gets to carry Frodo to another space. And then our last card here, also for Sam, is a scheme with 2 boost 2 copies, and this is Elven Bread. Heal Sam and Frodo 1 health. If Sam is adjacent to Frodo, you may instead heal Frodo 3 health and Sam 0. Once again, love how thematic that is that Sam is giving away his bread so that Frodo can heal up. Once again, getting Frodo to the end at whatever cost. But yeah, let's get into my final thoughts. Alrighty, so I'm a huge fan of this deck. I love the alternate win condition here, but I can totally empathize with people who are kind of averted to that, being like, hey, it kind of feels sucky if, Frodo just gets to the end and, I have him down to 1 health, but I'm at full health and then he just wins off the bat. I can totally empathize with that, but I think if both players are totally fine with the fact that there is an alternate win condition, it kind of makes it a fun little mini game of trying to play keep away from Frodo, and potentially there are some times that Frodo can win and kill the opponent, but also you gotta remember is that Frodo can't move a lot. I mean, he has a move of 1 and he cannot boost that move, and he's not getting that extra card draw like the T-Rex gets. So honestly, to me personally, I felt like it was very balanced when I played it. There were a few times when Frodo had the other person on the ropes, or Frodo just gets the end, or Frodo just dies because he cannot escape. I think it's a very fun deck, but once again, I was kind of holding off on this review because I can totally see how some people are like, hey, this isn't competitive, I feel like this deck sucks, or it feels bad to lose against, so I totally get that if this deck is not for you. But I do want to say there's a bunch of cool cards here. I mean, what was this? 7 cards here that are all great cards to kind of trick your opponent into letting you win the game, with Aragorn's here moving to an adjacent space that your opponent was not covering Mountain Doom, or with Gollum, if he can get all the other aids cards out of his hand, he can swap spaces with you if you were, monkey guarding on top of Mountain Doom, or Invisible Escape if you can hopefully not be taking too much damage from the One Ring and then move onto the spot and try to survive another turn. Or lastly here with Sam potentially carrying carrying Frodo up to the mountain, and then he plays the One Ring. I think the deck is super, super fun. Personally, I feel like it's balanced for what it is, but I totally empathize if this is one you guys are going to skip. But yeah, if you want to make this deck for yourself, let's find out how to do so. Okay, so starting off with Frodo here, I got him from the Meeple Smith, just an easy, quick purchase. You don't have to have a 3D print or anything. And the other thing I just did was a quick black wash. You can obviously watch some tutorials how to do it. It was super easy. I'm not a good painter by any means, and obviously I feel like it turned out quite great. And then next here we have the tokens for Sam and for Mount Doom. These are going to be from BoardGamesMaker.com. I leave the images that I have for both these tokens in the description. All you gotta do is drag and drop, and you can just order them up, and they'll come exactly like this. And the next also from Board Games Maker, I have all 3 of the health dials here. This is the 2-inch health dial, and these are both the 1-inch. Obviously, they come in bigger packs, so you will have to order multiple so hopefully for other fighters as well. So the images for the front and back, as well as the dial on the inside, I will all leave in the description. The plastic rivet here is just the extra ones that come in the Unmatched sets, but I will leave a link for, I believe Game Crafter has some rivets that you can order if they are in stock. Some people are saying they are not always in stock, but that's where you can get all of those. And then lastly here, for the actual deck, to get it printed off, it's also going to be Board Games Maker. I will leave a link for the exact type of cardstock that I used. But if you want to get the deck itself, this is actually going to be from Unmatched.cards, and our creator is going to be YALLL here. I think he did a fantastic job. Obviously, there's a few minor like spelling errors that I did not fix. This is one of the earlier decks that I actually printed. You can see I actually have the old hero card that I used to have for this, and then I did my own custom hero card just to kind of match more with Unmatched. So I will leave a link for that exact card image in the description. And the other thing I did change is the card back. I ended up stealing this from a different deck. There's quite a few decks that all share this exact same card back, so I'm not sure who came up with this deck, but here are all of those names for the different decks that do share this. There's a couple other good Frodo decks out there, but once again, I always like to add characters that have a nice fun twist and keep Unmatched definitely staying fresh instead of kind of some monotonous characters. But yeah, if that is all I got for you today, I gotta go. My toast is burning.